Hello and welcome to Channels Book Club. I'm Olakunle Kasumo. It's great to be back on the show again. This is where we discuss all things books. We talk to writers, authors, publishers, policymakers, and book lovers. We always have a good time here on this show. Today, we are looking at an autobiography. People often ask us, what's the difference between biographies and autobiographies? We've dealt with this on the show before, but a biography is a book about somebody written by somebody else. So if I write your story and I put it in a book, that is a biography. But an autobiography is a book about somebody written by that person. So if I write my own life story, I put it in a book, that's my autobiography. That's an autobiography. But another confusing part is, what is the difference between a memoir and an autobiography? Memoirs focus on particular aspects of a person's life. For example, you could have a war memoir. Somebody has experienced a war and writes that story in a book. That's a war memoir. Or you could have a political memoir. Somebody has had experiences in politics and then writes all those in a book. That's a political memoir. Or you could have a romance memoir. Somebody could tell his love story in a book. Or you could have a travel memoir. Now, memoirs are different from autobiographies because autobiographies are very chronological in nature. So you could start from your great grandfather's story and then to your great grandparents' story, to your parents' story, and then track your lineage to yourself and then talk about your first school, second school, first love, first job, and so on until now. It's very usually autobiographies are very chronological in nature. In the next few episodes, we'll be looking at some autobiographies. I always say to people that if you want to get instructed or you want to get inspired, it's a good idea to read a lot of autobiographies and biographies. You just need to pick your personalities carefully. Some persons are very inspiring. The autobiographer or the autobiography that we are looking at today is certainly one that inspired me when I was reading it. It's a classic grass to grace story, a political figure, a public figure who had a very humble beginning and rose through all the challenges of that humble beginning to become who he is today. When we come back from the break, we will have met him and we'll be enjoying the interview we had with him. So let's get introduced to our guest author for today.
Kalejaiye Adeboye Paul is a filmmaker, an actor, a scriptwriter, and public affairs analyst. Kalejaiye, who has vast experience in grassroots politics, is a former special advisor, rural development to Lagos State Governor and former chairman of Lag Ferry Service Limited. He is a graduate of Lagos State University, where he bagged his Bachelor of Arts and Education degrees and 2 master's degrees in Public Administration and Business Administration. Popularly called KAP, Kalejaiye is the author of Undeterred, The Pendulum Swings On.
Honorable, your friends call you KAP, so I'll be calling you KAP, right?
That's fine.
Great to have you on Channels Book Club.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Undeterred, the pendulum swings on. How do you do all the things you do? Entrepreneur, teacher, educator, politician, journalist. It's been a full life, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's just that at every stage of my life, I try to occupy my space with something productive. I don't like idle moment in my life. I have a little space, I want to occupy with something productive. So for me, my journey as a filmmaker, as a playwright, started my early years. I was in 1912 in the Playhouse series. I did that. I went to higher schools and then, trained as a teacher. I get into teaching. I moved on from teaching. I went into politics. When part of my political life sent me back, at a stage I had to go and lecture at the Lagos State Polytechnic. And then I was there when I was appointed to serve in the cabinet of Lagos State by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I went on in my political career, but each time I have a little space, I go back to school. I had to go to School of Journalism, School of Film Institute in Jos. Immediately, I had a few space after my serving in cabinet to upgrade myself about what filmmaking is all about. And then now I'm not in government. In the last 18 months, I've gone back to the Nigerian Institute of Journalism to learn about journalism. I'm going back to school in another 1 month to pick up my PhD program.
Wow. So it's been a life of constantly moving.
Yes.
That's the story. Undeterred, the pendulum swings on is the story of your life.
Yes.
It's an autobiography. Now, reading this, I said to myself that you are the kind of person whose story should be told to millions of young people, mainly because our poverty rate is very high in this country. So there are millions of young Nigerians who have grown up in poverty. Now, you grew up with that kind of background, that challenging background, where your father was a civil servant, a police officer, had 30 children, and it was a life of, he was paying your bills and everything, but it was a life of,
struggles,
grinding it out. And here you are today.
Yeah.
Does that sum up your life?
Exactly. That's the way it is. You see, a philosopher once said, it is not a sin to be born poor, but it's a sin to remain poor. You can be born into poverty. You must fight poverty. Poverty is something we must all fight. You must fight poverty like fighting a big war. Because if you don't fight and defeat poverty, your children will blame you. They will ask you, what were you doing when others were struggling? So, for me, fighting poverty became something very, very germane as I grew up. And I also said to myself, what does it take to fight poverty? It takes determination, resilience, hard work, and of course, the spiritual blessings, because you must also seek the face of God as you do all of these things. So, and I also know that you have to struggle it out. You don't have to be lazy. You don't have to have the normal hours that ordinary person will have. Those who have achieved greatness don't have the 8-hour sleep. The medicals will tell you need 8 hours sleep. You need minimum of 6 hours sleep. But then what do? You sleep away all your life? No. You got to reflect on the activities of the day after the day's work. I don't go to bed until 1 a.m., 2 a.m. every day of my life.
Every day
of my life. Even when I have nothing doing, I finish all the day's activities, and I go to want to sleep, I will not get a sleep. Because I need to attend to all my WhatsApp messages now that you have all those things. I need to look at what have I done in the day. I look at my business empires and say, okay, how is this one doing? By the time you wake up as somebody working for me, you will have woken up to something to receive instructions from me as to what you need to do and what you ought not to do. So for me, fighting poverty is what every young Nigerian must cultivate as an habit.
By the way, I did a bit of maths. If you sleep 8 hours a day and you live for 70 years, you will have slept for 24 years. So, my maths is not very good. Is that correct? Probably.
Probably, yeah. So why do you need
Incredible. Okay, now, let's get into your story. Let's paint a picture of your story, which you put here. Your father was a polygamist.
Yeah.
He was a police officer.
Yeah.
How he was a polygamist as a police officer is another story.
No, big story.
Okay. Now, he had 30 children.
Yeah, about 30 children. We not mean exact number because in the traditional society, you don't count children.
Okay.
So when I use the figure 30, it may not be accurately 30, it may be
40, 45.
No, definitely, the max may just be -1 and somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you were number 3.
Yeah.
Of the 30. So let's look at a few things you wrote in here. You went to a school where there was no lights, no water, at Imeko. Imeko.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a bit about that part of your story.
Yes. How did I get to Imeko? I had my last part of primary education in the Army Children's School in Ibadan, Mokola, and I was staying with my mother, who had disembarked from the various up and down, posting of my father. I decided to stay put in Ibadan. And when I was finishing, I did entrance examinations to various schools, to, Ibadan Grammar School and all of that, and I got admission. But my father was working in Imeko. And because my mother used to complain, I was so troublesome and this, I said, okay, don't worry. I should come and take entrance in Nazareth High School in Imeko. And I was also given admission. So he now said, good, I have to come to Imeko so that I'll get away from the urban life. Maybe that will, shape my life.
Yeah, shaping you up.
So, but then, unfortunately for me, he was in Imeko. He was a police officer there. I thought he would come and be treating me and be bullying me. But I was to resume in January. He was moved and transferred away from Imeko in December, a month to the time I was going to resume. So I had no choice. I resumed without him there. I had to be put in boarding house. But I tell you, my experience in the boarding house was quite awesome. I became the senior boarding house prefect. I became the social prefect in that same college. I had a full-blown career. But then, living in a rural place was in the first night. I cried all the night because I was sleeping. There was no light. Everywhere was so. There was cry of birds and all of this nonsense.
And throughout your stay in that school, there was no light?
No. Light came to Imeko years after I'd left.
So throughout your secondary school years, there was no electricity?
There was no electricity.
There was no pipe-borne water.
We had to go to a river called Oshuru.
To go and get water?
It's like a brook where you have, is a mountain, a rocky place. You have to go down under the rocky to go and fetch water, clean water, spring water for that matter. And then you have to come and you have to carry a bucket of water back to the college for them to cook food for us. Because we also bring water. Everybody brings. So it's only the Form 5 students that do not go to the brook to fetch water.
Was that not the same river or water that you used to bath?
Yes, you will bath there.
There?
Then you now bring water.
The same water?
Yes, the same water. But it's very clean water. It was spring water. And I tell you also, so funny enough, you know that in that brook, both male and female, we all bath together.
I was going to say that.
We all bath together.
Yeah, you wrote that here.
Adults. No rape incident ever happened.
Despite that.
Despite that. And we're all bathing together, naked, everybody. I see how
so it was real rural life.
Rural life. And then you have to trek the journey between the brook and my hostel, the school where I was staying, was approximately about 3 to 4 kilometers.
Wow. And at home, you spoke about all of you, 30 or so, eating from the same pot or something. Did you wrote that?
Yeah.
Only your dad had his own special pot.
Exactly.
The rest of you ate from the same pot.
Yes.
You dipped your hand in that pot, or you took whatever you wanted to eat
They will
from.
serve everybody.
From the same pot?
From the same pot. They will serve all of us in our respective plates. And then maybe, my brother and myself used to eat together most of the time.
Your brother that you always fought?
We fought because my brother, when he doesn't want me to eat, he will just spit in the food. He knows when he spits in the food, I don't want to eat. So he will spit in the food. I say, yeah, you can no longer eat. And I will crack his head. He will crack my head.
I was just laughing reading your story, really. But the whole experience toughened you up.
Exactly.
There's a connection between that experience or those experiences and the way you were able to ultimately rise above them and become successful in your careers. There's a connection, a link, right?
A connection. See, a philosopher said tough times don't last.
But tough people do.
So tough times will not last forever. When you're facing tough times in life, it's very elastic. It's not inelastic. So you will get over it if you're able to endure, if you're able to persevere, if you're able to pursue, if you're able to be focused, and if you're able to be dedicated. So that's what life is all about. So when you face challenges of life, and that's why as a nation today, we're still facing challenges. These challenges get us more toughened, and we'll get out of it better.
there's also a thread that runs through your story. Very early, you became activist in nature, political in nature, even right from school, where you opposed your seniors who tried to oppress you and you fought, and you were almost expelled, but eventually, you came out tops. And that was why you did not become the senior prefect of your school,
Exactly.
because of your activism.
Yes.
So that ran through your early years,
Yes.
your early years of education, that activism, that vision to become student union president, and all that. That all those set you up for your life for politics later on, right?
Yeah, sure. You see, the truth of the matter is that I hate oppression in my life. I don't like to be oppressed, and I don't like to see people being oppressed, and I don't like to oppress people. So I fight injustice. I give you a very lucid example. When I was in the Teachers College, I became a member of the Prefect Council by virtue of election, because it was a 2-year course. And then you have to allow the year one to contest to become secretary of the Prefect Council. Was a provision. So I became secretary of the Prefect Council by virtue of the fact that I won the elections. And then I was excluded from the marriage of people who will be punished, who will go and fetch water, who can do it because of my privileged position. But then there was one night they called us. There's a bell called Ago Opono. When they ring it, you must obey the call. If you slow, wherever they stop the bell, that's where you will kneel down and crawl to meet the place. So they were asked all the year one students to kneel down. What happened? There was a misunderstanding between 2 seniors and some juniors in their hostels. Then that became a disturbance for all of us. And then I said, I don't know where I got the inspiration from. I just, all year one students, please stand up. And everybody rose. There was a revolt in campus. They had to call us to the assembly hall. And the president came and addressed us and said everybody should double their height. When they say double your height, you have to climb your bench. Everybody climbed. My brain was racking. And at a point, I just echoed. I said, everybody get down. And then the whole system broke down. The president said everybody should go home, go back to the hostel. The following day, they set up a panel to see why the uprising. I thought I was going to be expelled. I was never expelled, because I defended myself in the panel. How can 2 people fighting in the room, they, at 1 o'clock, you disturb the peace of everybody? And then the panel came up with a verdict. Some students were punished, but I was exonerated. So for me, those were spirits that led me on into, when I now got into activism in politics, I also know what it takes to lead people. I know what it takes to serve people. I know what it takes to really get to the heart of the people. So I was not just into politics because I needed to just be into politics. My background as an activist has brought me into, connection with the people, and that.
Why were you always tending towards the, what I would call the Republicans early in your career?
Yeah.
I mean, there was SDP, NRC.
I was in there.
SDP was, of course, more predominant in the Southwest.
Yeah.
You went for NRC.
Yeah.
Then when Abacha set up his five leprous fingers of the same hand, most people who were activists, stayed away from politics.
Yeah.
You went to join, was it UNCP?
Yes, I was in UNCP.
Yeah, you went to join UNCP.
Yes.
And why did you, it was later on, it seems as if maybe your eyes opened, or you just realized you changed course later on. What happened there?
Okay, let me tell you the difference between Republicans and Democrats. The Republicans fight. They walk through and get what they want. Democrats are people who believe in what the Baba Sokwe. When I was going to join politics, those I met on the field of politics told me to go and queue. I was a graduate. But then those I met were not graduates, but then they had a kind of setup that does not really accommodate new people. They have a regimented structure that you have to follow. So it could take you 10 years. But as a graduate and as somebody who has had experience in politics, in student activism, I believe, look, I can walk through the thing. I can walk through the game. So Republican gives you some opportunity to fight your way out. The Democrats, or what you call, people who are in such climb, no, you have to sit down. You can't talk when they are talking. So it doesn't really give you the full-blown opportunity to explore your democratic instincts. But then over time, like you have said, I came to realize that it's not what you do, it's not who you are that society looks at. It's what does the system say.
What does the system say? That's a realist in you talking now.
Yes.
So you became a realist.
Yes. Now what does the system say? You can fight from now till thy kingdom come. If in the Yoruba land, if the party they are doing, you are not in that party, you can be the most populous person. They will not vote for you. Because they already have a thinking of a mindset. That mindset guides them in the election. So when you are in the right party, you have won your election by 40%.
When you are in the right party.
That the people want within your community. So I've come to realize that that's what my community wants. And therefore, I had to align. And that makes things a bit quite easier.
So the way real politicians think is very different from the way intellectuals or academics or educated elites think, right? Obviously. I mean, they tend more towards being idealistic.
Because
you guys tend more towards being realistic.
Yes. Society wants what is ideal. But what is ideal is not practicable.
Does the society want what is ideal?
Society wants what is ideal. They want their water to flow. They want their roads to be tarred. They want every light to come up 24 hours. But that is the ideal thing to happen. But in reality, do we have the resources to give everybody water? Do we have the resources to give everybody 24 hours power supply? Do we have the technology to do all of these things? So that's where the practicalism comes in. That's where the reality comes in. So every electorate wants the best. They want to, when you go to elections, they want you to give them everything that they needed. But then you want to do it. You have the resources.
Kalejaiye Adeboye Paul, a.k.a. Chop Life. I saw that in your book.
Oh, yes.
Chop Life.
Yes. No, the Chop Life came out of my father's name. My father's name is Kalejaiye. So when I was in secondary school, people called me Kale Chop Life. Kale Chop Life. Kale Chop Life. So
You just adopted it.
Yes, I adopted.
I like the part where you went to. Was it the college?
Yes.
Where you put Chop Life in all your bags and everything.
Yes.
And then you got there, they said, who are you? You said, Chop Life. Kale Chop Life.
Yes.
Then you came to Chop Life, Abi.
That was teacher's college.
Oh, yeah, stay here.
And then somebody came, his name was Surplus.
Surplus.
They said, what do you mean by surplus? They said, surplusity of everything. We did not sleep till daybreak. We were in the hostel, the seniors were drilling us.
They made you Chop Life.
What is your name? I said, Kalejaiye. What is this you wrote here? I say, Chop Life. Oh, you are here to chop. Oh, can you to Chop Life? So myself and Surplusity became friends. I'm sure I hope we will listen to this program. We became friends. I said, Surplusity, Chop Life. Surplusity, Chop Life. That is the thing they will ask us to do. It's unprintable. They will do Agbator 1, Agbator 2. You are naked.
Wow.
You are naked in your natural self. And then they'll be asking you to go up and go down. Go up and go down. So the teacher training was a kind of regiment. I don't know how to describe it. But that's the
I mean, the thing about telling one story, writing one story is so many things just pop up. And they also help us to keep certain aspects of our history.
Yes.
That might not be in mainstream narratives, like the way the schools operated, the way the schools ran, bullying in schools, and all that. So, well done. Thank you for joining us on Channels Book Club.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Viewers, thank you.
It's been great to have you here.
Thank you.
And this is where we have to end the show today. As always, we'll be delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.